Breaking: Shen Yue's family reject Dylan Wang, shocking confrontation revealed. The room was too silent for comfort. The kind of silence that doesn't just make your heart race, it strangles it. For days, rumors had been whispering through the corridors of social media. Shen Yue's family isn't entirely on board with Dylan Wang. But last night, what was once gossip transformed into a storm of truth, louder than thunder, sharper than lightning. It happened inside the dimly lit dining room of the Shen household. The polished mahogany table reflected the tension like a mirror of war. Plates of untouched food grew cold as the weight of unspoken truths pressed down on everyone present. Shen Yue sat at one side, her delicate hands nervously clutching the hem of her dress, while Dylan Wang, tall, unwavering, and visibly nervous, sat across from her father, a man known for his cold precision and unshakable pride. And then it began. The confrontation begins. Mr. Wang, Shen Yue's father's voice carried the weight of authority, slicing through the silence like a blade. I know what the world sees. They see you as a star, handsome, successful, adored. But what I see is chaos. Fame, cameras, and controversy. That's not the life my daughter deserves. The words hung in the air like poison. Shen Yue's eyes widened, her lips parting as though she wanted to intervene, but fear chained her to her seat. Dylan, however, straightened his back, his jaw tightening. He had prepared for this moment, but preparation meant nothing when the battlefield was love. With all respect, sir, Dylan said, his voice low but burning with sincerity, I may be surrounded by fame, but none of it matters if I don't have Shen Yue. She is my peace in the chaos. The table trembled as Shen Yue's father slammed his hand down, startling even the maids in the background. Peace. You call dragging her name into scandals peace. You call exposing her to gossip and ridicule peace. Tears pooled in Shen Yue's eyes. Dylan's fists clenched under the table. Shen Yue's mother joins in. But it wasn't just her father who spoke. Shen Yue's mother, usually gentle and quiet, finally broke her silence. Dylan, she said, her voice softer but no less cutting, we don't doubt your feelings. But love is not always enough. A woman's life can be destroyed by one careless rumor. Do you promise you can shield her from that? The room grew heavy. Dylan's silence, even for a moment, was enough to wound. Shen Yue bit her lip so hard she tasted blood. The cameras of imagination painted this scene vividly in the minds of fans who later heard about it, an idol fighting against more than paparazzi, fighting against the very people he wished would welcome him. Finally, Dylan looked up, his eyes glistening. I promise. Even if it costs me everything, my career, my reputation, even the adoration of the world, I will never let her be hurt because of me. The room shook, not from an earthquake, but from the force of emotion colliding head-on with pride and tradition. Shen Yue breaks down. It was too much for her. Shen Yue pushed back her chair, the screech echoing like a scream. Enough, she cried, tears streaming down her face. Her father stiffened, her mother gasped, and Dylan froze. Why must love always be a war? Why do I have to choose between the man I love and the family I adore? Don't you see you're tearing me apart? Her sobs filled the room, raw and unfiltered. Dylan rose instantly, reaching for her, but her father's stern gaze stopped him mid-step. Shen Yue's hands trembled as she buried her face against her palms, the weight of expectation crashing over her. The world outside would never believe the kind of battlefield unfolding inside the Shen household. Fans were already debating online, creating threads and hashtags like #LetShenYueChoose and #SupportDylan, but inside that room, it wasn't hashtags that mattered, it was hearts being ripped apart. A shocking ultimatum. The breaking point came with her father's next words. He stood, looming over Dylan, his voice steady and merciless. If you truly love my daughter, prove it. Step away from her life until you can show us, not with promises, but with actions, that she won't suffer for choosing you. The words struck like thunder. Shen Yue gasped, clutching Dylan's arm. No. Baba, please, don't do this. But Dylan, instead of fighting, took a deep breath. His heart screamed rebellion, but his eyes told a different story of sacrifice, of pain. Slowly, he nodded. If that's what it takes, he said, his voice breaking, then I'll wait. No matter how long it takes, I'll wait until you see I'm worthy of her. Shen Yue collapsed into sobs, shaking her head violently. No, Dylan. Don't leave me. Don't you dare agree to this. But Dylan only brushed her tears with trembling fingers, whispering words that would echo through the fandom like prophecy. I'll never leave you, you. Even if I must stand outside the gates of your world, I'll be there waiting. The fallout. By the time Dylan left the Shen residence that night, Paparazzi had already caught glimpses of his pained expression, his tear-streaked eyes hidden behind a cap pulled too low. Shen Yue was nowhere to be seen, locked inside her room with the sound of muffled sobs escaping through the door. The internet exploded. Clips, supposed leaks, and anonymous accounts began spreading like wildfire. Fans were in shock. Had Shen Yue's family truly rejected Dylan? Was this the end of their love story? But instead of silence, Dylan's team released a cryptic message on social media. Sometimes love isn't about fighting back, it's about proving with patience. No matter the obstacles, hearts that beat for each other always find their way home. The post hit 5 million shares in under 12 hours. Fans react. Weibo, Twitter, and Instagram lit up like fireworks. If Dylan really agreed to step away, that's the purest love I've ever seen. Broken heart. How can Shen Yue's family not see what we see? He adores her. This is like Romeo and Juliet all over again, but in 2025. Protect Shen Yue at all costs. Family pressure is the hardest battle of them all. Memes, fan edits, and even poems flooded timelines. But beneath the laughter and the tears, one thing was certain. The world was witnessing a love story that refused to die, even when buried under the weight of rejection. The silent aftermath. Days later, Shen Yue was spotted in public for the first time. She wore sunglasses, her face pale, lips trembling as she brushed past reporters. When asked if she and Dylan had broken up, she refused to answer. But her silence spoke louder than words, the pain in her eyes was undeniable. Meanwhile, Dylan was seen leaving a studio, his usually radiant smile replaced with exhaustion. But when asked about Shen Yue, he simply replied, "Love doesn't end because of walls. Love climbs them." The clip went viral within minutes. The storm after the confrontation. The door to the Shen household closed with a heavy thud that sounded more like a gavel than wood-meeting wood. Outside, Dylan Wang stood still, frozen on the front steps. The air was cold, but it wasn't the chill of the evening that made him shiver, it was the echo of Shen Yue's sobs still ringing in his ears. For a long moment, he didn't move. His hand brushed against the gate, and his chest rose and fell in uneven breaths, as if love itself was being squeezed out of him. The cameras hidden in the shadows clicked faintly, capturing flashes of his hollowed expression. But Dylan didn't care about the press, not tonight. Behind the walls, Shen Yue was on her knees, her cries muffled against her pillow. The silence that followed his departure was worse than any scream, it was the silence of a heart tearing itself in two. The lonely drive. Dylan finally walked to his car. As he slid into the driver's seat, he didn't start the engine right away. His hands rested on the steering wheel, knuckles white, eyes staring blankly at the road ahead. Memories of the dinner replayed in his mind like a film on repeat. Shen Yue's trembling voice as she pleaded for her father to stop. Her mother's sharp words about love not being enough. Her father's ultimatum, step away until you prove yourself. And worst of all, Shen Yue's broken scream, don't leave me, Dylan. His chest tightened. He slammed his fist against the steering wheel. Why must it be this way? He whispered into the dark. And then, with trembling hands, he started the car and drove, not home, not to the safety of his own world, but aimlessly, as though the night might offer answers. Shen Yue confronts her parents. Back inside, Shen Yue stormed out of her room. Her eyes were red, cheeks streaked with tears. She faced her parents, voice hoarse but fierce. How could you do that to him? To me, she demanded. Her father stood tall, his expression unreadable. I did it for you. Love is blind, you. You don't see what he drags into your life, but I do. Shen Yue shook her head violently. No, you don't see him. You see Dylan Wang, the star. The actor. The idol. But I see Dylan, the man who stays up with me when I cry, the man who makes me laugh when the world feels heavy. Why can't you trust my choice? Her mother stepped forward, reaching for her hand. "We only want you safe." But Shinyu pulled away, her voice trembling with rage. "Safe? Or controlled? Because right now, I don't feel safe, I feel trapped." And with that, she rushed back to her room, slamming the door so hard the entire house seemed to flinch. A call in the dark. Hours later, Dylan's phone vibrated. He had parked by the river, the water glimmering under the city lights. He answered immediately, his heart leaping when he saw Shinyu's name. Her voice cracked through the speaker. "Where are you?" "By the river," he replied, trying to steady his voice. I couldn't just go home." There was a pause, then a soft sob. "I'm so sorry, Dylan. I didn't know they would be that cruel. I didn't know." His throat tightened. "Don't apologize, you. It's not your fault. They're protecting you in their way. But his voice faltered. "I can't stand the thought of being kept from you." On the other end, Shinyu's voice dropped to a whisper, fragile yet defiant. "Then don't let them. Please, don't let them win." For the first time that night, Dylan smiled faintly through the pain. "I won't." The secret meeting. Unable to bear the distance, Shinyu slipped out of her house hours later. A cap and mask hid her identity as she moved through the quiet streets, her heart racing like a fugitive's. She finally found Dylan by the river, leaning against the railing, staring into the dark water. "Dylan," she called softly. He turned, and for a moment, both just froze. The pain in their eyes mirrored each other, raw and vulnerable. Then she ran into his arms. They held each other tightly, as if the world outside no longer mattered. Shinyu's tears soaked his shirt, but Dylan didn't care. He buried his face in her hair, inhaling her familiar scent, grounding himself in her presence. "They want to tear us apart," she whispered. "But I won't let them." Dylan cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Then we fight. Not with anger, not with rebellion, but with love. They'll see us, you. They'll see that this isn't a phase or a scandal. It's real." Her heart clenched. "But what if they never accept us?" "Then I'll wait," Dylan said, echoing his words from earlier. "I'll wait until they can't deny it anymore. Because I'd rather wait a lifetime with hope than live a day without you." The paparazzi strike. But even love in the shadows wasn't safe. Unbeknownst to them, a paparazzo had followed Shinyu from her home. Hidden behind a lamppost, the camera clicked furiously, capturing every stolen moment, the embrace, the tears, the kiss Dylan planted on her forehead. By dawn, those pictures would flood the internet. And with them, the confrontation that had begun inside Shinyu's home would explode into the public eye. Backlash and uproar. At sunrise, Dylan's team woke to chaos. Headlines screamed across social media. Shinyu defies parents, meets Dylan Wang in secret. Forbidden love. Family rejects Dylan, but Shinyu stands by him. Romeo and Juliet of China. Dylan and Shinyu caught together after rejection. Fans rallied, hashtags trended worldwide. #Stand by Dylan, #protect Shinyu, #love against all odds. But not everyone was supportive. Critics tore into them, claiming Dylan was reckless, dragging Shinyu into a whirlwind she couldn't control. Commentators debated whether the Shen family was right to step in. Through it all, Dylan and Shinyu stayed silent.